Welcome back to RFL. Talk about high stakes. Today, the final day of arguments in the Obamacare Supreme Court case. Much as the White House says they don't want to call it that, that's what everybody is, so we'll go with it too. The 9 Supreme Court justices heard arguments today over whether or not removing the mandate from the Affordable Care Act would deal a fatal blow to the rest of the law. And joining us to sound off on the Supreme Court case and beyond, of course, good friend Dominic Carter, Howard Lim, leader in the New York State Conservative Party, good friend too, and as well as former aide to Senator Al D'Amato and senior political correspondent Andrew Whitman. All right, Andrew, you've been covering this today. Yesterday, not such a good day here for supporters of the law. How did today go?
Well, mixed opinions again, depending on who you talk to, although there seems to be even more evidence that this law could be in jeopardy. The key question before the court today was whether the bulk of the law can stand if a key component is found to be unconstitutional. That, of course, the individual mandate. So what are the justices thinking right now, tonight? Well, for that, we can only guess.
If the Supreme Court strikes down the insurance mandate, what happens to the rest of President Obama's health care law? The lawyer for the 26 states that filed suit against the administration was blunt.
If the individual mandate is unconstitutional, then the rest of the act cannot stand.
But the justices seemed skeptical and open to the idea that some of the law can be salvaged. Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Why don't we let Congress fix it?
Justice Elena Kagan.
Is half a loaf better than no loaf?
Even conservative Justice Antonin Scalia.
Is this not totally unrealistic that we're going to go through this enormous bill, item by item, and decide each one?
Today's question, what happens next, could be more than just a hypothetical. Yesterday's oral arguments on the insurance mandate did not go well for the Obama administration. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Antonin Scalia seem to view the mandate as a slippery slope.
Can the government require you to buy a cell phone because that would facilitate responding when you need emergency services?
And Justice Anthony Kennedy, seen as the key swing vote, pushed back strongly against the administration's case.
Can you identify for us some limits on the Commerce Clause?
The court also heard arguments today on the part of the law that expands Medicaid. Opponents say that is a states' rights issue. And while we'll have to wait till June to learn the court's decision, the speculation games are in full swing among court watchers. The New Yorker's Jeffrey Toobin tweeting that today's session still a train wreck, maybe also a plane wreck for Barack Obama. I don't think he thought it went well, but later posted the administration did better arguing the Medicaid points. NPR's Nina Totenberg, who was one of the voices of reason among court watchers yesterday, saying, quote, "It looked today that if there are 5 votes to strike down the mandate, there might be 5 votes to strike down the whole law." But I should emphasize the if and might in that statement. She also added this court is dramatically more conservative than it has been in many, many decades. It is quite prepared, quite capable of going further than people expected. And finally, Lyle Dennison at SCOTUS blog with a ray of hope for supporters of the law. He writes, the court may have convinced itself in the end not to overturn the individual mandate because of just how hard it would be to decide what to do after that. Though he was less optimistic about the Medicaid, the new health care law's broad expansion of the Medicaid program, he wrote, may be sacrificed to a historic expression of judicial sympathy for states' rights. Rich?
Easy for you to say, Andrew.
Yeah.
All right, Howard, I'll even give a little love here to the tie. I see we have from Federalist Law here, Mr. Madison. There was an intent to that. What do you think the court will and should do when it's all said and done?
Well, I think they should follow the Constitution. You know, we fought this battle in a sense over the New Deal during the Roosevelt presidency. And small breaches were made in what was probably an overharsh interpretation of what federalism meant. But I think what the president has attempted to do here in terms of the government taking over this huge portion of the economy and then disguising a tax, forcing everyone to pay for the health services of everyone else, I think is what is the fatal problem. They're not willing.
Really strongly with this, Andrew.
Well, my first reaction was the New Deal worked out pretty well. I seem to recall. I think the court can make
the Second World War.
Well,
can we debate this Obamacare? I'm trying.
Okay. The court can make exceptions from where it has been in the past, and they may be in a position to do that in this case. I honestly am not sure how this is going to go down. If you forced me to make a decision. I think they'll probably overturn, but it could really go either way. It could really go either way.
What I found interesting was what Democrats, whether it's strategists or electeds, are already saying in advance of what the court will rule, and they're going to rule in June. Let's take a listen, if we could, to what James Carville had to say about if this goes down, the implications in an election year.
If they do this thing 5-4 and overturn it, and I think that it's going to give the Democratic Party a argument for a long, long time about this. And, you know, the parties all get charged up. Remember, Scalia and these guys overturned an election. Why wouldn't, and I don't understand why the Justice, the Solicitor General, everybody was so lackadaisical about this. These guys are not going to go, like, read a law book and decide what to do. I mean, they've already, and the public has this figured out. I mean, this court did its reputation enormous damage with Bush v. Gore, and it's lingered, and you know, to overturn the thing 5-4. I mean, as a professional Democrat, not as a citizen of the U.S., I actually think the best thing could happen.
Now, it's funny, Harry Reid said the same thing, Dominic, that, hey, this thing goes down 5-4, they're going to be doing high fives, you know, in Democratic headquarters. You buy that?
I do. This could actually energize the base for Democrats.
Because they'd see it as a partisan Supreme Court, or because it's not an issue to fight about?
You know, what's lost in all of this, I've listened to my colleagues here, and I can understand the argument on the merits. But what's lost in this is that this was part of the reason why Obama was elected, to do something about health care and the millions of Americans that do not have insurance. So if this goes down, it will taint the image of the Supreme Court, and it may very well energize the Democratic base.
Public opinion on health care reforms underwater. If they overturn it, I'm not so sure I don't think it helps the president that they overturn it. I don't think it helps the Democrats.
See, but the straw man here is the idea that Republicans have nothing. In fact, I think because the issue of health care will be on the table, that I think a more reasonable, more efficient health care program will be introduced by Republican Congress and a Republican president.
We're going to find out in June, and certainly between now and then, I'm sure a few opinions will be made.